G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Saturday the 24th of November 2018 and the time here is 10 AM, or sorry, 9:20 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time. Well folks, as usual, plenty going on, so much that it's even just hard to keep up. But this is the weekly news wrap up for this week. And as you all know, I've been behind, so I am now trying to catch up. This is weekly news wrap up number 8. So obviously, if you're an Australian, there's been so much going on here, it's hard to keep up. I think it all started really with the Melbourne or the Burke Street loony. You know, let's look at this objectively. What are we getting out of Muslim immigration to this country? I'm being dead serious. What are we getting out of Muslim immigration to this country? I would probably hypothesize a big fat fucking zero. And the reason I say that is that our cultures are just not matched. And you know, it's like history repeating itself. Go back and look at what in Lebanon when the Lebanese let loads of Muslims in. Eventually they got to the point where they overtook it. When they got strong enough, then they started killing the Christians. Now, you know, we can go on and on and on about, and as I said to you before, I have very, very good Muslim friends. But there comes a time when you have to start saying, well, you know, and leave the rhetoric aside. You don't need all the rhetoric. You just need common sense. And the common sense is that this isn't working. And if you break it down, it's pretty easy to see why. You bring people here that don't drink, don't smoke, don't do this, don't do that, not allowed to do this, blah blah blah, can't use beaches, you know, treat women like shit, to a country where we drink beer, we spend all our time outside, we socialise massively, we integrate correctly as a nation. You know, how come the Italians didn't do this, the Greeks didn't do this, the Vietnamese didn't do this, the Chinese didn't do this, but for some reason the Muslim ideology comes to countries, can't assimilate, and lashes out. You know, we've got to the stage where we actually start having to say, well, listen, it's either toe the line or go home, or go back to wherever you came from. And I don't care if you were born here, sorry, you folks are from Lebanon, go back to Lebanon. And it's not going to be far off, folks, because people are fed up. You know, you're getting to the stage now where it's going to be open revolt against Muslims, which is bad. Don't get me wrong, it's not good. You know, we shouldn't go out just aiming our anger at another human being, because that's not the right way to do things. What we need to do is have a rationalised conversation and argument and debate about this problem, because folks, it ain't going away. This will continue and continue and continue. So you have to start saying to yourself, well, what am I going to do about this? Well, me personally, I'm going to start refusing Muslim goods, services, anything, until they start towing the line. Because you can't tell me that someone went to that mosque, everybody was looking, including their family, and they went, oh, he's not radicalised. My point being is, it's kind of like the mafia within that religion, and I know this for a fact because I've been told this. They will not rat someone else. regardless if they know that that person's going to go and bomb up a church or a school or whatever and do major collateral damage, they will not rat them out. It's that simple. So then you have to start looking at the tiered system here, the families, you know, the social services. How did we get ourselves into a situation where people who don't like our country, don't want to assimilate, can't stand our culture and values, and want to kill us for it? It's enough. And like Scott Morrison says, enough is enough. And this is what they're planning on doing about it. Terrorists to lose Australian citizenship under Scott Morrison's proposed law. And I would probably say it is about time. And anybody who's watching, if you want to go and fight for ISIS, get on a plane and go. Just go. It's another thing that stumps me. Why would you want to stop people going? Let them go. Take the citizenship off them as they fly over the sea. Thanks, guys. DNR. Do not return. Simple as that. Right, well, right, let's have a look at some other news. The Victorians. That's who we call Mexicans here, folks. They're all south of the border. They're all going to the polls today to vote in another government with the same rhetoric as the last government and the same rhetoric as the new government when it gets in. Nothing changes. It's just this magic merry-go-round of people who don't care, don't want to care, don't even know if they ever want to care. They just want that, big fat reddies, and tell you a pack of lies and do absolutely fuck all for the average everyday Australian individual. Sorry, it sounds a bit what's the name, but it's the truth. It is the truth. They don't care. They don't want to know. They don't give a shit. You know, if they gave a care, why is it that every government's biggest biggest expenditures and way to forge your way ahead and everything else is to build roads and build tunnels? That's their biggest thing they've got for us, folks. It's not, okay, well, let's build more school libraries, let's pay teachers more and nurses more. Nah, let's all waste our money on fucking infrastructure projects that 20 years from now will be useless anyway. So this is I'm a skeptic at best, folks. So, as I said, I just wanted to show you something down the page here. This is really interesting and should interest everybody, regardless of what you're thinking about this. Interestingly, the Brits, or the UK government, and the Eurozone have agreed a Brexit exit. The surprising thing there is that 3/4 of the British Parliament and over a half of the British people don't agree with it. So the woman you were just looking at, this numpty here, will soon be thrown out of the UK government and bring on a crisis of monumental proportions, which is being facilitated by Soros and all the NGOs. And what you're going to find is going to happen is that they're going to do another, and they're already calling for it already in massive droves, another referendum. Because what they're going to do is they're going to erode the confidence in the UK government completely. Gone. Can't trust them. They're just a bunch of rats. Whatever you want to say. Don't care. They're all the same anyway, so who gives a shit? But these NGOs are going to undermine and undercut this government. And they're going to do everything in their power to stop Boris Johnson and the Conservatives on the right of the party get into power. They will literally destroy the UK Union to achieve this. That's how big this is. Now this donkey here, this Theresa May, for want of a better term, she's brought out something that is just unworkable and unusable. And the way that the NGOs and the European Union and all these elites are doing this is they're going to have a border, get this, they're going to have a border, a free zone in, guess where? Northern Ireland. Why are they doing it there, you think? So they can bring back the sectarian violence, because the DUP, Democratic Unionist Party from Northern Ireland, has said that there should never be a separation between a state of the UK and the motherland. Fair comment. And they're saying that this is wrong. We are part of the UK. We should not have a Eurozone in our state, which is correct. You can't make this shit up, folks. Honestly. And they're doing it because of what? Because they say that it will be too hard to manage the Northern Ireland border. And they don't want to put up another wall. Because then Sinn Féin and the Catholics will feel that they're once again being hemmed in and not part of Ireland. Folks, these people are seriously sick. Like they are seriously sick. The weird thing is now, is you've got Sinn Féin going, well, this is kind of okay, and you've got the DUP saying we're not standing for it. And they're going to remove support from Theresa May in her government. Thus the constitutional crisis, thus how this all plays out in the end. We're living in a seriously fucked up world, folks. Honestly, we are. And here's how this all plays out, folks. This is the British Prime Minister. This guy here is a non-elected president of the EU. You need to read this at the bottom. Agreement now goes to national envoys. Well, one of the biggest sticking points in this is that Spain is now saying we're not ratifying this unless they give us back Gibraltar. Well, if you guys know anything about English and, you know, all that sort of stuff, there's no fucking way they're giving Gibraltar back to the Spanish. No way at all. Ain't happening. So, you know, they've had it for over 300 years. It's kind of like the Northern Ireland scenario. But once again, there will be a trading zone. This is what they're aiming for. There will be a trading zone in Gibraltar. Just fucking weird. Here's something that I'm paying more and more attention to, folks. This week we sold off our biggest meat exporter to an Indian, I believe, and now we're selling off all our farms, melons, watermelons, etc., to the Chinese. And this is a long line of things that we've sold to them. We're now at the point now where we just don't own anything anymore in our own country, and that's a real worry. Like, we're actually selling that much. We sold just about all our dairies are now owned by the Chinese. All our meat products, each meat producers, are now owned by foreign entities. Most of our big farms, except for the ones that the government deems defence requirements, are owned by the Chinese or others. Oddly enough, they nearly bought, this is fact, they nearly bought the entire eastern seaboard electricity grid last week or last month, and the government knocked it back. But they were going to do it. I believe the West Australian government sold the gas rights or whatever to a foreign entity. You know, this is a slippery slope, and the reason why it concerns me so much as an Australian is that what kind of a life are we, or a lifestyle, if you like, are we leaving for our kids? What's the term? Our children are going to be under the yoke of foreign entities in this country in the future because we've sold off so much of our country. You know, what we're leaving our children now, what this government is doing, is selling every single asset that we have. Every viable asset. All the while not mentioning the fact that 1,000 k's up the track, the Chinese are landing long-range bombers on airstrips. I can't stress strongly enough a couple of things here. One, it has to stop. This is ridiculous. Why do we need to sell so much of our infrastructure, agriculture, everything to foreign entities? Why? It should be illegal. Should be illegal. Why can't we run our own affairs anymore? Why is the government so dead set keen on selling everything to foreign companies? And the reason is globalism. It's just crazy, folks. Our kids are not going to have anything of any worth in the future. You'll actually have foreigners telling this country how to run itself. That's where we're going with this, by the way. It's sick. And this is quite possibly the biggest story, that most underreported story of recent times. Mike Pence announces plans to redevelop Manus Island Naval Base with the Australian Navy. Now, folks, in case you missed it, last week was the APEC meeting in Papua New Guinea, in Port Moresby, which would have been horrific at best. And at that meeting, this is the first meeting ever where there was no joint communique at the end of the meeting saying this is what we achieved, this is what we did, this blah blah. There was none of that. They argued all week, or for how many days? It went on 3 days, I think. And at one point, security had to be called to remove the Chinese officials from the office of the Papua New Guinea Trade Minister. And the reason for that is because that America said, nah, we're not having this shit anymore, and has told the countries in the Pacific that they either stand with America or they go to China and face massive debts. And look, folks, you need to watch this because this is really, really important, and listen to this. If you haven't chased it up, you need to listen, you need to read what's going on here. China is by stealth literally throwing billions and trillions of dollars in the Pacific region to little islands, you know, Samoa, Fiji, anywhere they can. To the point now where the Australian government, Malcolm Turnbull, this is how it worked out. Malcolm Turnbull went to America a while ago, came back, all of a sudden our whole redirection as regards to China changed. To the point where we're now like, nah, we're we're now going full bore into Pacific Islands, reclaiming our territory, for want of a better term, with the Americans. You need to understand that there was a big change a couple of months ago where Australia took its foot out of China and put it back in America. And I believe that's one of the reasons why Malcolm Turnbull was banished. Because, as you know, he is a fervent believer in Chinese economy, all things Chinese. And I believe that's one of the things that brought him undone. That and the fact that he spied on the American president via Alexander Downer and was part of that. That's another reason, but that's a whole nother story. But the issue as regards to what you're all looking at as regards to Manus Island, the building of bases, the base is being redeveloped on Manus Island. In Darwin, there's going to be, a big contingent of Americans in Darwin now. And I would not be surprised if you hear that the Philippines is going to go full bore again with the American troops, etc. Because, folks, those South Pacific Islands, those South Sea Islands that China's developed, are going to get the shit blown out of them possibly in the next 6 months. They've been put on notice by the Americans and said it won't. Pence's exact words were, "It won't stand." John Bolton's exact words were, "It won't stand." Pompeo's words, "It won't stand." So they've put China on notice. Obviously they're not going to bomb them overnight. Very soon, if you remember, a Chinese warship and an American warship almost had a prang in the middle of the water just off these islands. Literally, nearly had a prang. So it's getting hot. There's ships and submarines from both the Americans, the UK and Australia constantly going up and down that region. Now, here's the thing. Has China got the balls to actually shoot one of these ships, shoot a plane, whatever? And, because they are actually believing their rhetoric that this belongs to them. It's a tightrope stuff, folks. Explain to me, someone said on comments, it's in the South China Sea, it's none of our business. Explain to me what's the difference between what China is doing and the Nazis invading Poland because they said it was theirs. These islands, by the way, I've shown you these islands before, are so far away from China, they have no territorial rights to them at all. None. So my feeling is that very soon a B-52 stealth bomber is going to fly across them and just bomb the shit out of it, and then that's going to be the end of it. What will be the catalyst of that? Not sure. Could be this trade war, because remember, while this trade war is going on, this is killing the Chinese. They only pay their people $5 each a day or something, folks. Just remember that. So if you're a Chinese worker and all of a sudden you haven't got any work because the Americans are putting tariffs on you, you're not getting it, you're going to end up with a massive revolt in China, because remember, they've brought all their people into the cities to control them. So it's a powder keg. Trump knows this. They all know this. They're slowly but surely eroding the Chinese way of life to bring on conflict. There's no two ways about it. Forget the rhetoric, oh, we're best mates and all this sort of shit. Well, best mates don't go and build a bloody, military bunkers and islands down close to Australia. They don't. It's ridiculous. And folks, before I forget, here is the sponsor of my show, Totally Rawsome, and their golden activated turmeric paste. As I've said to you before, if you haven't tried it, please do so. And as I said, if you could, it would be good if you could actually spend 5 minutes and put a review up in the in the reviews for these guys, because they work bloody hard. They're just a couple of Aussie battlers, and thankfully you guys have actually been behind this stuff and it's actually working, and I've heard some good reports from people. For me, it's a godsend. My knee doesn't hurt anymore, so just buy it. It's great. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it if it wasn't. If it was shit, I wouldn't even have it on here. But that's the truth. Okay. I'll put the link in the description box, I promise. Before we do the prayers, I just wanted to do one, mention the Melbourne meeting. Look guys, I'm all still for it, don't panic. Obviously, people have been trying to stop me from getting there. As I said, the VPN should be sorted out today, so I'll be able to get back to you guys via email. Don't panic. The Rebel with the Cause will be there, and we will have the meeting. It may be, December time. It's going to be December time now, maybe even January. But we will have the meeting, folks. So just hang in there. Keep talking amongst yourselves. I sent the group email out. If you want to attend the Melbourne meeting, send me an email, and I'll put you on the email chain. Okay. Alrighty. Let's do the prayers. Okay, folks, verse of the day. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name, for the Lord is good and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Oh, very good. And as always, folks, we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. One final thing, folks. As regards to Simon, the IT man, look, folks, he's a champion. Honestly. Get off his back. It wasn't Simon. If it was, I can tell you that for a fact. Because Simon and another bloke from the email stuff who didn't know each other were trying to help. So I would have found out if he was someone different from the other person, believe me, and he's not. He's just this eccentric pommy bloke who lives in Adelaide. Sorry, Simon. He's not eccentric. He's actually a really good guy, and he did genuinely help, and is still continuing to help and still offering help. So please don't think. I even know where he lives, so I've got his phone numbers. I know where he works. Folks, you have to remember, they can get on the dark web. They can integrate anywhere, anytime. So look. They wouldn't just prop up Simon and go, oh, here you go, mate, wreck his computer, or send him a new one. It's not logical, folks. Anyway, prep out. God bless.